Of Marxist Theory Through the Great Gatsby by Danielle Harbinson. Money buys happiness, but does it really? Does gaining wealth truly make one happier? That's the question I want us to ask ourselves as we examine the work of F. Scott Fitzgerald in The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby is a text that was published in the mid-1920s and highlights life during this time, also considered the Roaring Twenties or Jazz Age. The story itself is a romance that follows the two protagonists, Daisy Buchanan and Jay Gatsby, and the yearn they have for one another. The biggest distinction of these characters that leads into my reasoning for using Marxist theory lens is their wealth. Marxist theory is a direct examination of social and economic structure. It discusses the economic struggle and how that leads to social change in society. In this particular text, we will also be examining the concept of new money and old money as it is displayed between the two main protagonists. Money and wealth doesn't automatically make a person happier, and to assume that would be falling into the trend of false stereotypes. To begin, the concept of Marxist theory is one that examines the economic wealth in society and how that impacts people and their lives. This theory demonstrates three related ideas: a philosophical, anthropological, a theory of history, and economic and political program. McLean. In other words, Marxist theory examines the economic social structure and where each individual's rank is in that structure and how that affects them. Your placement in the structure isn't always concrete, as some thought. Picture a pyramid, each level growing in wealth but diminishing in size, as less and less have money. It was thought for years that there was no moving up, but when we see the rise of the industrial era, we also see this evolution in society. This was also somewhat of a fantasy before. People never thought these advancements could be possible. However, does this growth and moving up in society ranks really admit greater happiness? You're moving up within tiers, which means you are also making more money. But does that make all your problems disappear? Additionally, the purpose of Marxist theory lens is to examine social change and how that is affected by economy. Many were affected either negatively or positively by these changes, and a lot of the times how the outcome played depended on your actions. Marxism looks at these individuals and focuses on the socio-economic consideration, the underlying human behavior. It does not exclude the psychological domain of human experiences. Tyson. This means that Marxist theory was not created to analyze the theoretical mindset of individuals, but rather their physical placement within an economy. Another important aspect of Marxism is Marxism theories of imperialism. Bringing imperialist power into the economy adds a whole nother level to the situation and grievances, such as war and the impact that impacts society tremendously. Outside factors are what do the most damage and are the biggest factor in the downfall of the economy. Concluding, wars and famines are not the only thing that contribute to people's burdens. The economic structure itself is a contributor, as everyone is constantly fighting for the top spot. Furthermore, one could agree that money does bring you happiness and your altogether well-being. I will be trying to refute this statement as I analyze the two protagonists in our text, The Great Gatsby, Daisy Buchanan and Jay Gatsby, that emulate this economic power perfectly. Daisy comes from what we call old money. This is what people thought was the only way that you could be wealthy, meaning that you inherit your money. This is an ideal that Gatsby then refutes, as he comes from what we call new money, which means that he wasn't born to wealth but instead attained it over time. However, you'll notice how when he is asked about his wealth, he will say, "I lost most of it in the big panic of the war," Fitzgerald 90. This was later to be revealed as a lie, displaying how the concept of gaining wealth was somewhat of a taboo and not often spoken upon. The talk of war also goes back to the earlier discussion about the correlation of imperialism within Marxism. In summary, Gatsby wasn't fully lying. He did face hardships during the war like so many others. He was enlisted back when Daisy and him were younger, therefore facing the same financial troubles. Continuing on, money isn't what brings you happiness and can actually emulate the opposite. The relationship between Daisy and her husband, Tom, is a prime example of this. Both of the two come from old money, meaning they inherited their wealth. This makes them look frowned upon by others, seen as careless people. Tom and Daisy, they smashed up things and creatures. They then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together and let other people clean up the mess they had made. Fitzgerald 179. This statement is a demonstration that money not only doesn't guarantee happiness, but can make you act in cynical ways. Gaining wealth has the probability to make you change your whole persona. It can give you the impression that you are above someone else. Tom tells Gatsby he's a common swindler who have to steal a ring to put it on her finger. Fitzgerald 133. This statement is very degrading and shows that there is judgment on both sides of the economic structure. Next, I want to pull more focus on the desire and want for wealth and wanting to be rich, and the misconception that money will automatically grant someone happiness. The biggest motive in this novel is Gatsby's love for Daisy. He states as he stretches his arm out towards the dark water in a curious way, and from far as I was from him, I could have sworn he was trembling. Involuntarily, I glanced seaward and distinguished nothing except a single green light, minute and far away, that might have been the end of the dock. Fitzgerald 22. This quote at first glance appears to be only talking about a green light. However, if you look closer, you can see that the green light is a form of symbolism as it is coming directly from Daisy's house. The distinct green color is a representation of the money and wealth that Gatsby's motive is to be richer, is for his love to be in love with Daisy and be with her. To conclude, the lust for wealth does not always come with ill intentions, but often can turn into them, as people believe money will bring them joy and solve all their problems. To add on, Tom and Daisy Buchanan are the wealthiest and arguably the unhappiness in the novel. It's not just their toxic relationship that dictates how they feel, but the money itself. She's been everywhere and seen everything and done everything. I've been a very bad Nikki. I'm pretty cynical about everything. Fitzgerald 140. This is revealing that even though Daisy's life is presumably perfect as a result of her wealth, it isn't all as glamorous as it seems. To assume someone is happier because they are rich will be a false accusation. Daisy is admitting here a glimpse into the true nature of how someone of her status feels and acts. To wrap up, many dream of the glamorous life that Daisy has, yet she is still unhappy. This shows that wealth isn't always the answer and all that's cracked up to be. Also, money is not an immediate path to help and can actually be considered a deviator. Gatsby's original goal was to win over Daisy's love, but it's clear along the way that the motive has started to shift. There's several moments of him never once ceased to looking at Daisy. I think he revalued everything in his house according to the measure of response it drew from her well-loved eyes. Fitzgerald 91. Yes, Gatsby clearly still has a strong lust for Daisy, but he has also grown to like the life he has established. The glamour, the glitz that has filled his house with to impress Daisy, but also has become something that Gatsby is very proud of and is flaunting. In conclusion, people desire the life and riches, but soon find that it's not all cracked up to be. Finally, I want to leave you with the thought that the next time you dream of being rich and having $1 million, think about how that will actually affect you. What would your life be like? Would you truly be happy, and how would you be viewed? How do you want the world to see you? And most importantly, how do you want the people in your inner circle to see you? The way you're perceived will carry you far or stop you and lead you to a stopping point. Next time you dream of riches, think of the life you're asking for. Is it worth it? Is all the money, all the jewelry enough to make you willing to change who you are? Money can't make you happier. That's the bottom line. The only thing that can make you happier is the love from others and the joys from the people and places around you. These are my works cited, and thank you so much for listening to my presentation.